All of my women out there, do I have some great news for you this morning? When it comes to relationships, men and women, we are attracted to different things. Now, obviously, physical attraction is important, but that's higher on the list for men than it is for women. I am sure you guys have seen the beautiful woman with a super nerd like Mike Freeman before. Well, that's a bad example. Mike Freeman has never been seen with a woman, at least a woman who is capable of breathing without an air compressor. But I'm sure you guys have seen a beautiful woman with a man that's not exactly physically attractive, and you've wondered, how in the hell did he get her? She's out of his league. Women tend to look at the big picture when settling into a relationship. They want a man who can provide stability. They want someone who provides security, someone they can feel safe with. Men, we don't have to worry about these things because we can take care of ourselves physically. But all my single women out there looking for a man to protect you, I have got some great news for you this morning. Casey's found the perfect guy to be your knight in shining armor. Casey has found the perfect man to give you the protection that you desire. Long story short, KC has found your hero. I can be your hero, baby. Now, some of you might be wondering, KC, who is this Adonis? Who is this modern day Zeus? Ladies and men pretending to be ladies, allow me to introduce you to Dan Le Batard. Easy now, ladies, don't approach him all at once. I promise you, there is plenty of Danny loving to go around. Danny likes long walks on the beach. He can also protect you in any situation. He runs a cool 12-second 40. He followed the advice of Hulk Hogan, took his vitamins, and says his prayers to the woke oak tree. Dan Le Batard and his pretend friends in the mainstream media, they have made it their personal mission to protect women. But just to be clear, that does not mean all women are protected. In order to qualify for protection, you must meet certain criteria. They prefer to protect women like Leah Thomas. They take pride in protecting women like Rachel Levine. Obviously, the dump divers in the WNBA qualify for media protection, but there is one woman that the mainstream media has deemed untouchable. There is one woman who is protected above all. There is one woman who Dan Le Batard and the media have demanded should never be criticized. I'm talking about the beautiful Mina Kimes, which, by the way, before we get into the legit criticism of Mina Kimes, we should take a moment to congratulate her. Mina Kimes is 37 weeks pregnant. She's about to give birth to, I think it's her first child. But good for Mina Kimes and her husband. I hope they have a happy, healthy baby boy or girl. All right, last week, ESPN announced that they were giving a multi-year, multi-million-dollar contract to Mina Kimes. Over the summer, the media was claiming that Mina Kimes was the biggest free agent in sports media. Mina Kimes, not Shannon Sharp. Hey, it's me, Shay Shay. Not Pat McAfee, who was a free agent, I guess, towards the beginning of the summer. We're talking about dudes that actually have a platform. Shay has done remarkably well so far with Stephen A. on First Take. Pat McAfee's built a tremendous platform here on YouTube. Now, we'll see how that translates to television, but you can't deny the fact that Pat McAfee's got influence. But none of that mattered to the mainstream media. According to the shitfucks, Mina Kimes was the biggest free agent. Naturally, when ESPN donated almost $2 million a year to Mina Kimes and woke welfare, normal people were perplexed. Like I told you guys last week, Mina Kimes is not a draw. Well, Casey, that's not true. She's got a huge following on Twitter. Yeah, so does some broad named JoJo from Jersey. That doesn't mean JoJo's worth $2 million a year. Mina Kimes has never hosted her own show. She's a regular on shows like Around the Horn and NFL Live, where ratings qualify for the status of huge embarrassing failure. Her podcast consistently ranks outside the top 50 on Apple and other podcasting platforms. Which is why normal people were questioning why ESPN would give someone $2 million that doesn't move the needle. In other words, the value provided to ESPN by Mina Kimes does not equal her salary. And look, that's not her fault. Mina Kimes was able to negotiate a contract that she felt paid her what she's worth. Good for Mina Kimes. But that does not mean people are not allowed to question this deal. All of this criticism surrounding Mina Kimes, it's valid criticism. But according to Dan Le Batard, this is not valid criticism. Questioning the contract that she was given, that's not fair questioning. No. According to Danny LB, The criticism of Mina Kimes is another classic example of mythical misogyny and toxic masculinity. Yesterday on his YouTube show that draws the same viewership numbers as the loser that you're watching right now, Dan Le Batard decided to swing up by accusing Clay Travis and Bobby Burack at Outkick of only criticizing Mina Kimes because she's a woman. Oh, my poor Mina, my damsel in distress. She's being attacked by these evil white men. They just can't stand the fact that a woman who's never played in the NFL is being paid to analyze the NFL. Yeah, that question remains unanswered. Here on the channel, we've been asking the same question for years now. How is someone who has never played in the NFL qualified to analyze the NFL? When I was in New York City a couple of years ago, I visited Wall Street. Does that mean I'm qualified to be a stock analyst? I have been to more NFL and NBA games than I can count. Does that mean I'm qualified to analyze those leagues? Let me show you an example of just how unqualified Mina Kimes is to analyze the NFL. Earlier this week, Mina Kimes made a suggestion to the New York Jets. They should trade for Jacoby Brissett. He can save their season. Trust me, I should know. I'm Mina Kimes. Woohoo! I guess this is a little bit of progress in the mainstream sports media. At least she didn't borrow the boring strategy of Jamel Hill and suggest Colin Kaepernick. But when she was rightfully called out for her lunacy, Mina Kimes responded to a tweet in the only way that she knows how. She tried to make her point by referencing meaningless statistics. Check it out for yourself. Now, statistically speaking, Mina Kimes is right. Jacoby Brissett is a better quarterback than Zach Wilson. But here's the thing. And this is why I often say that stats are meaningless. Stats do not give you the full story. They don't give you the full context. NFL coaches and general managers, they are not making personnel decisions based on stats alone. Last year, for example, Tua ranked third in the league in QBR. He ranked above Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Tom Brady. Are you going to take Tua over those guys? The thing Mina Kimes fails to understand, Jacoby Brissett, he has already hit his ceiling. At this point in his career, we already know who Jacoby Brissett is. He's a game manager. There's no potential left to be realized. He has been given opportunity after opportunity. At 30 years old, let's just be real here, Jacoby Brissett is a career backup. Now, Zach Wilson, on the other hand, he has unrealized potential. Whether or not he realizes that potential is a completely different story, but the only way to figure that out is to play him. Zach Wilson knows the system. He knows the playbook. He knows the Jets' offense. Why would they waste a draft pick on a quarterback like Jacoby Brissett that they already know ain't taking them to the Super Bowl? Hell, Jacoby Brissett never made the playoffs. This is exactly what I'm talking about with Mina Kimes. She thinks that she's outthinking the room. She thinks that referencing meaningless stats makes her an NFL analyst. It doesn't. It makes you a numbers cruncher. Dan Le Batard criticized Clay Travis and Bobby Burack for having the audacity to question Mina Kimes. But not one time, not once, does he provide any context. He didn't provide one example as to why their criticisms were not valid. Hell, he didn't even mention their criticism in his soliloquy. You want to know why? Because Dan Le Batard knows that the criticism of Mina Kimes is valid. The truth is, Dan Le Batard and the mainstream media, they are nothing but hypocrites. They are not blindly defending Mina Kimes because she's a woman. They are defending her because she's a woke woman. They're defending Mina Kimes because she has perfected the role as the ultimate victim. If Danny LB was this staunch defender of women, how come he didn't come to the defense of Sam Ponder? Several months ago, Sam Ponder was being crucified by the media because she had the audacity to claim that men should not be participating in women's sports. Where was Dan Le Batard? I thought he was a defender of women against the evils of toxic masculinity. What about Riley Gaines? Riley Gaines, I think she's been physically threatened or maybe even physically assaulted on college campuses. I have yet to see Dan Le Batard defend Riley Gaines once. Better yet, where was Dan Le Batard when Sage Steele was being silenced by ESPN? It's no secret that Danny doesn't like ESPN. This should have been the perfect scenario for him. A defenseless black woman being silenced by the evil white men in Bristol. The situation with Sage Steele checked multiple woke boxes. Woman, check. Minority, check. White bosses, check. Sage Steele fought ESPN for what, 2, maybe 3 years? Where was Dan Le Batard? He was silent. Dan Le Batard claims to defend Mina Kimes because she's had to deal with misogyny and toxic masculinity throughout her media career. But once again, he provides no examples. Someone, please, give me one example of Mina Kimes being passed over for an opportunity because she's a woman. Give me one example of the misogyny, the toxic masculinity that she has been forced to deal with. And I'm not talking about social media. I'm not talking about Victor Virgin criticizing Mina Kimes from the computer at the public library. I'm talking about misogyny and toxic masculinity that Mina Kimes has dealt with in the industry. Just give me one example. If Mina Kimes really dealt with this shit, don't you think we would know about it? I mean, this is the same woman who shares screenshots on social media of nasty messages that she receives from dudes. You mean to tell me she's choosing to remain silent with the toxic masculinity that she's dealing with behind the scenes? There is a reason that the mainstream media is so overly protective of Mina Kimes. In their eyes, she represents progress. A woman who was given a job that's typically reserved for dudes. This is the reason that equality is a myth. The reason the role of NFL analyst is reserved for men. That's who plays in the NFL. How many men are WNBA analysts? Go watch a WNBA pregame show on ESPN. Tell me how many dudes you see. None. Well, that's not very equitable. There should be an equal number of men to women on the show, right? They probably can't find a dude willing to analyze the dump. But just because Mina Kimes is criticized does not mean the criticism is gender-based. Doesn't mean that Mina Kimes is not talented. She's a natural on camera. When it comes to statistics, Mina Kimes is great. When it comes to analyzing the NFL, she's unqualified. And it's not just the media that protects Mina Kimes. ESPN is protecting her too. Have you guys ever wondered why Mina Kimes has never been given her own show at ESPN? If Mina Kimes is this big superstar, she's a huge draw, how come ESPN hasn't capitalized on her fame and given her a show? If I had to guess, ESPN already knows the end result. These major media companies, they often use focus groups to determine who has the ability to draw ratings on television. I'm guessing that ESPN knows how a show centered around Mina Kimes would perform. Huge, embarrassing failure. So what do? They protect her by not giving her one. But give me your thoughts. Dan Le Batard criticizes Outkick and other critics of Mina Kimes for having the audacity to question her qualifications. Now, do you think these criticisms of Mina Kimes are valid? Do you think she's qualified to be an NFL analyst? Or is all of this just toxic masculinity and misogyny? You let me know. Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys tomorrow.